Okay, now this is where the real history begins of the Battle of Brandywine. This is where everybody thinks or hears about the battle is familiar with. They're familiar with the Brandywine Creek. They're familiar with Chad's Ford. So this is where I'm going to get into most of the information that's commonly available on the internet and that most people know about the battle. Most people don't know too much about Welch's Tavern, Martin's Tavern, all these taverns that were used during the battle. They only know about how he protected, the Brandywine Creek. You hear a lot of documentaries. They're always saying the same thing: Brandywine Creek, Brandywine Creek. Well, here's my aspect on Brandywine Creek. This house behind me is historic in many ways. As you can see, it's also owned by the Chad's Ford Historical Society. They own two. The house we were just at, the Barnes Britton house, and they own this one here. This is also a Quaker structure, but this is a nice Quaker structure also. Now, if you look at those windows, if you've ever been to Old City, Philadelphia, you'll see these casement windows. Now, those windows back then weren't cheap. Each piece of glass was expensive, and it looks like a modern window today. This was the home of John Chad. This is the John Chad house. This house was built before the Battle of Brandywine. John Chad lived here in this area, and he also had his house built by a local inhabitant. He didn't build his house himself. Now I'm going to pan off down here. You're going to see the Historical Society, Chad's Ford Historical Society, which is on the battlefield, and you're going to see a spring house over here. What you see down here, off on the road that was originally here, this road was probably most likely here, a cart path. You see a spring house down there. John Chad, when he had his house being built on the hill here, that was there. That was their spring house. That's where they got their fresh water from. They also put vegetables and they put provisions down there to keep them cool so they wouldn't go bad during the summer. Now that house is historic also. It's not really a house, it's kind of looks like a house. The family of John Chad stayed in there while their house here on the hill was being constructed. After the house was constructed, they didn't need a spring anymore. I guess they got a spring somewhere else. It was used as a school for some of the local inhabitants. Another tidbit about this structure down here, about the Battle of Brandywine, is that the Brandywine Creek is about 100 yards to my west, or to my east. Now, when the British arrived in this area, they were stationed, they put their cannons, their 12-pound cannons, big cannons at the time, bigger than the Americans, on a ridge over there where this elementary school is today. And also, Washington had his cannons right behind this house, the John Chad house behind me. Now, when there was an exchange of gunfire, they had to aim their cannons. They were smooth bores. A British cannonball hit that structure in the corner of it. We're going to take a place on it, hit it in the corner, and damaged it. We're going to take a look at that now.